Hi, I'm Tom.
I'm Jordan.
I'm Taylor.
I'm Donnie.
So for our final presentation, we decided to do the shooting in Parkland, Florida. It was a 19-year-old kid named Nicholas Cruz who came into the school. He was a former student. He was kicked out for, they just said disciplinary reasons. They didn't really specify. But he came into the school with an AR-15 type style gun and just like shot it up, and there was 17 people who died. Most were students, but there was a geography teacher, an assistant football coach, and then the athletic director were also all killed in it. He was adopted from like a young age, as well as his brother was also adopted. His dad died when he was young, so it was just his mother that was left raising him and his brother. But he like specifically had like records of violence. It like included things like putting a gun to like his little brother's head and like shoving his mom against the wall like because she took his Xbox away. So he was like diagnosed with depression, but not depression where they thought that he would harm other people. But there was multiple times like well growing up with like having the police involved, and then the FBI were also looking into him because of a comment that he made on YouTube that like in a just like in the sections he just wrote I'm going to be a professional school shooter, which someone like obviously found was alarming and sent it to the FBI where they investigated that. Um, and then I think that the media changes the way that we look on the situation because there's so many like discussions about like whether we're supposed to have guns and what type of guns we're allowed to have. So the media portrays like the situation to be that every kid who's depressed with a gun is going to shoot up their school, where I don't think that that's true because I obviously know people who have guns and I know people who are depressed and I know nobody that's shooted up a school. So I think that there was a lot of signs that were missed like while he was growing up, and I think that they kind of ignore that. Not that they ignore it, but they don't express how important like signs like that are like crucial to like putting some like getting somebody help like that so that things like this don't happen.
The theory we came across was the psychopathology theory, which states certain individuals with mental illnesses or other disorders are more likely to engage in aggressive acts. So with the death of his parents and moving into a new home, like being adopted with his brother, it bound to happen that maybe he was going to shoot up the school, even with the threats. He lost probably the last person who actually truly loved him, so his mood was definitely noticed to change by others around him as well.
For the recommendations aspect, the measures to be taken to interrupt the violence are based more on an institutional and societal level. The span of 6 months, like all law enforcement kind of ignored him with this more increasing threats and signs. I believe on like a societal level, it should be harder to acquire guns. Um, the resources that will be needed to achieve the recommendations are based on education. So education for the law enforcement would be more training. If you spend more time training law enforcement to recognize signs. Another way of education would be also to educate the youth more. I mean, I'm a junior in college right now, and this is my first class I've taken really about violence. I mean, in middle school and high school, I was always taught about wars, but we were always asked to remember dates and battles, not remember how to help prevent violence. So that's something. And then challenges for these recommendations. The biggest challenge, I think, would just be the whole gun control issue. I mean, if it's going to be hard to actually implement harder ways to buy guns. Um, Also, there's a lot of gray areas in this topic. So there's people aren't really sure how or what type of paperwork to implement, and also if there were mental screenings, what would qualify as mentally stable to own a gun.
When it came to applying what we've learned in class and things like that, the main thing I took away from it was that everyone needs to pay attention to the signs that were there, and that law enforcement should have followed through on the people who actually did see the signs. For example, he Cruz was seen, or he had shot a chicken, and I think with a BB gun, and I think that just showed like a big lack of empathy. And there were about 18 calls to the Cruz house revolving around him, and each time the law enforcement said that nothing that he did was bad enough where it should qualify for him to be arrested. Somebody tipped the FBI that Cruz had a desire to kill people, and the FBI never really did anything about that, and they've been getting a lot of heat for not following through on that specific statement. And then when it came to challenges that we had, I think Donnie said that he had trouble picking a specific theory to apply the whole story to, and Tom said he had a few challenges or a few problems picking the challenges. And that's it.
Thanks, guys.